Welcome to the Great Exchange, where history's greatest minds take center stage. Today we sit down with the man whose laws of motion and universal gravitation shaped our understanding of the physical world, Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Newton, it is an honor to have you here. How would you describe yourself in your own words?
Thank you for having me. If I must describe myself, I would say I am a seeker of truth, forever drawn to the mysteries of nature, mathematics, and the divine order of the universe.
Let's start with the most famous story about you, the falling apple. Is it true?
Ah, the apple. Yes, it is true, but not as dramatized. I was contemplating forces in my orchard when I saw an apple fall. That moment inspired me to ask, why does the apple fall straight down? Could the same force pulling it to the ground also govern the motion of the moon and planets? That question led me to the theory of universal gravitation.
Did you realize at that moment that you were changing science forever?
Not at all. Discovery is rarely sudden. It is a slow, relentless pursuit. The apple merely sparked an idea, proving it took years of relentless study and mathematical formulation.
Your book, Principia Mathematica, is considered one of the most important works in science. What motivated you to write it?
I had no intention of publishing it at first. It was my correspondence with Edmund Halley that convinced me. He urged me to share my findings with the world. Without his insistence and his funding, I may never have completed Principia.
What was the greatest challenge in formulating your laws of motion and gravity?
The challenge was in proving what I already suspected, that all motion follows predictable laws. I needed a framework, a system of mathematics that could describe the motions of the heavens and the earth with absolute precision. That led me to develop calculus.
Sir Newton, you are known for your intellect and scientific genius, but your early years were far from easy. Can you tell us about your childhood?
My beginnings were humble, even troubled. I was born prematurely on Christmas Day, 1642. They say I was so small that they doubted I would survive. My father, also named Isaac, died 3 months before my birth. I never knew him. My mother, Hannah, remarried when I was 3, but instead of raising me, she left me behind to live with my grandmother. I grew up feeling abandoned. I learned early on that I could rely on no one but myself. I became reserved, fiercely independent, and withdrawn into my own thoughts. Solitude became my companion, and in that solitude, I found a hunger for knowledge.
What kind of child were you?
I was not an obedient one, if that's what you mean. I was prone to deep thought but had a temper when provoked. I once nearly burned down my family's house while experimenting with fire and light. I built sundials, windmills, water clocks, anything to understand the mechanics of the world. I even crafted small mechanical devices to amuse myself. But at school, I was not particularly remarkable until one moment changed everything. A classmate insulted me, called me a fool. That day, I vowed not only to surpass him in school but to be the best student of all. From that moment on, I became obsessed with learning, particularly mathematics and philosophy. That rivalry, though petty, fueled my discipline.
Interesting. So competition played a role in your greatness?
Not competition, pride. I could not stand to be looked down upon. That fire within me never went out.
You never married or had children. Was that by choice?
I never saw much value in distractions of the heart. My mind was occupied with loftier pursuits, mathematics, physics, the nature of existence itself. To love another person requires a level of surrender. I could never allow myself that luxury. I felt lonely, but solitude was my greatest ally. I had little patience for trivial conversation. I preferred the company of books and my own thoughts.
Did you ever regret not starting a family?
A legacy is not built in children but in ideas. My work is my progeny, and as long as it endures, I have left something behind.
Sir Isaac, while your intellect is beyond dispute, history tells us you were not always, let's say, the easiest person to get along with. Your most famous rivalry was with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz over the invention of calculus. What happened between you two?
Leibniz was a capable thinker, but he overstepped. I had developed the foundations of calculus years before he published his work. When he presented it as his own, what choice had I but to defend my claim?
Some argue that Leibniz may have developed his method independently. The dispute escalated into a bitter academic war. Some even say you used your influence in the Royal Society to discredit him.
Convenient, is it not? A man who had access to my unpublished notes suddenly discovers the same principles. No, sir, that is no coincidence. Influence? If a man's work cannot withstand scrutiny, is it not right to expose its weaknesses? The Royal Society investigated fairly, though it is unfortunate that I, as its president, happened to oversee the committee.
Leibniz died disgraced and isolated. Do you regret how things ended?
Regret is for the sentimental. I defended my life's work. If history finds that cruel, so be it.
Your conflict with Robert Hooke was equally intense. He accused you of stealing ideas on optics, and you in turn dismissed his work. What caused such hostility?
Hooke was an envious man. He fancied himself my equal but lacked the discipline to refine his ideas. When I presented my findings on light and color, he sought to undermine them, yet he had neither the evidence nor the reasoning to do so.
Some historians suggest you held such a grudge that after his death, you ensured his legacy was erased, removing his portrait from the Royal Society and diminishing his contributions. Is that true?
A missing portrait does not erase a man's work. If his contributions were great, they would have endured on their own merits. Posterity remembers genius, not complaints.
You also had a falling out with John Flamsteed, the Astronomer Royal. He accused you of manipulating and stealing his data. What happened there? He even called you a tyrant and spent years trying to regain control over his own work.
Flamsteed hoarded his star charts like a jealous miser. Science is not served by secrecy. I required his observations to complete my work on planetary motion, yet he withheld them for years. If I pressed him, it was only in service of progress. A tyrant? No. A man impatient with obstruction? Certainly. The stars wait for no man, and neither do I.
Sir Isaac, the world knows you as the father of modern physics, but many might be surprised to learn that you dedicated much of your life to alchemy and mystical studies. You filled thousands of pages with alchemical experiments, searching for the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life. Did you truly believe in such things? How does a man of science reconcile with such pursuits?
There is no contradiction. What you call science today was once inseparable from philosophy, mathematics, and the deeper mysteries of nature. To understand the universe, one must look beyond mere numbers. Belief is an unsteady foundation. What I pursued was knowledge. The ancients left behind cryptic wisdom, clues, if you will, about the fundamental forces of nature. If metals could transform, if matter itself could be altered at its core, would this not suggest deeper truths about creation?
But modern science views alchemy as superstition.
Modern science would do well to remember that it once dismissed gravity as superstition. Many truths begin as heresies.
Beyond alchemy, you also spent years studying the Bible, searching for hidden prophecies. Why would the greatest scientist of your era be drawn to biblical codes? This pursuit led you to reject the doctrine of the Trinity, a belief considered sacred by the Church. Weren't you afraid of being accused of heresy?
The universe was created by divine intelligence. The same order I found in mathematics and physics must also govern history. I sought to decode God's plan, hidden in the scriptures. I was not afraid of heresy. I was cautious. The Council of Nicaea introduced a doctrine that neither Christ nor the apostles taught. Yet to speak openly would have cost me everything, my position, my reputation, perhaps my life.
You, a man of reason, predicted the end of the world?
Not an end, a transformation. The collapse of corrupt institutions, the purification of knowledge. Science and faith are not enemies. They are two books written by the same hand.
Many of your writings on alchemy and prophecy were hidden away unpublished during your lifetime. Why did you keep so much of your work secret?
Because the world was not ready. Had I spoken freely, I would have been ridiculed, or worse, condemned. The Royal Society was no place for those who sought the secrets of transmutation or divine chronology. They would have called it madness.
Sir Isaac, you spent the last decades of your life as warden and later master of the Royal Mint. Did you find satisfaction in this role, or was it merely a retreat from scientific inquiry? Some say you pursued counterfeiters with almost obsessive zeal. You even sent many to the gallows. Did you ever question the severity of your actions?
It was no retreat, it was a new battlefield. Counterfeiters plagued the kingdom, debasing the currency, eroding trust in commerce. I did not merely oversee the mint, I hunted these criminals, ensured their prosecution, and reformed England's coinage. I brought order where there was chaos. Theft is theft, whether it be of ideas or of gold. And justice is justice.
And yet, in your final years, you rarely returned to your scientific work. Why?
Because the mind, too, wearies. I had seen the rise and fall of ideas, the pettiness of men who sought to claim my work as their own. I had spent a lifetime unraveling the universe's secrets. Perhaps, in the end, I simply wished to rest.
Looking back, do you believe your life was guided by fate? Do you believe future generations will remember you?
Not fate, but providence. The universe operates by laws, not chance. I was given intellect and purpose, and I used both in service of discovery. As long as mankind seeks to understand the cosmos, my name shall not be forgotten.
Sir Isaac Newton, thank you for sharing your story with us. From the falling apple to the laws that govern the cosmos, Sir Isaac Newton's mind reshaped our understanding of the world. His legacy remains woven into the very fabric of science. Stay tuned for more conversations with history's greatest minds on The Great Exchange.